Hello everyone, this is Dani Hartung with my AEP 858 Module 15 case study presentation. So we're going to talk about the Truman Elementary School case study. First, identifying the problem and analyzing what needs to be done. So what we know is that Truman Elementary is pre-K through 8th grade within the building. About 15% of the student population receives free and reduced lunches, and 5% are English non-primary, or the primary language spoken in the home is something other than English. Of course, the biggest problem that we know of is that reading scores are dropping at Truman. So this is supported by the data and analysis both by myself as the principal and by the reading specialist whose independent evaluation I requested. And the PTO is mad about it, justifiably so. So they've asked me to present at their next PTO meeting, and I need to do a little bit of recon, which I've already started according to this story, and I need to do a little bit more so we can go in with the most information possible. So first, what I need to know, one, why are our reading assessment performances decreasing? Two, are teachers, performing properly by differentiating instruction based on student comprehension level and ability or other outside demographic factors? We'll find out later. The answer to that is no, but this is a question that we have initially. Could we qualify for this new State Department of Education grant, which is a great opportunity that has recently come up? And how would we utilize that funding if I can rally the support from the PTO, the school board, and my superintendent in order to receive that grant funding? And then we can also look a little bit more into Truman's poverty levels. So we know socioeconomic status a little bit based on the free reduced lunches, but we could learn even more. And then also an achievement history for outside assessments beyond reading and math. So the problem, first and foremost, is that teachers are not instructing students differently based on their levels of ability, performance, comprehension, or native language, writing skills, spelling skills, any of that. So we're just kind of lecturing at them currently, large group instruction, and then individual work. So there's not as much minute-to-minute assessment being done based on reading comprehension or spelling, especially. Those are the two main complaints from our PTO president. So our reading strategies aren't developed. Students don't always know what to do when they're on their own reading. And additionally, there's only about an hour of ELA instruction per day, and that's segmented and interrupted sometimes based on specials classes and how they fall during the day. So continuation of that is teachers are not presently being evaluated by me on the basis of this class differentiation or instructional differentiation. So this is an administrative issue. I need to have an explicit plan in place and a policy in place so that my teachers know if they're meeting these expectations of instruction and meeting students where they are as far as a knowledge base and ability base. So we need to make sure that our classroom teachers are collaborating not only with me, but with our ESOL teachers and also our special ed teachers and gifted professionals as well. And then we need to structure the school day so that these ELA lessons are not interrupted and we get at least an hour. But most days we'd like to have more than an hour of instruction in that area. And also, not only do we want that consistent block of time, but we want to customize it to students' needs so that each individual is getting the instruction that they need. This here is the chart that was given to me by the reading specialist. As you can see, if you look at the left column, the median percentile, in grades 1 through 4, we have not increased overall from 3 years ago to last year in any of those grades. So that's kind of the main point that I zeroed in on here. Depending on certain grade levels, cohort changes and grade to grade level changes are kind of the main points of focus. However, overall performance, and we also could extract data for kindergarten as well, since we are a K-8 building, overall median percentile performances have been dropping. We know that this isn't a student problem because they are performing in math. So they're understanding math in a way that they're not individually understanding reading. And so we need to make sure that we extract this data, maybe look at other data from science, social studies, some other areas of assessment performance so that we can compare them. And that would be some great information for our grant application as well. So my proposed plan of action, I would like to first present the reading specialist's findings to the PTO and be open and honest with them. I'm not going to blow smoke. I'm going to let them know where we have fallen short over the last 3 years, but I'm also going to support my teachers and back them up. You know, they have been using the curriculum. They have been doing the best that they can. We are going to do a better job as administration of getting the funding that we need in order to make these changes and then implementing explicit continuous improvement plans for our schools so that they know exactly what they need to be doing. My explicit goal for the next 3 years is to increase each grade level K through 4 by 10% median percentile assessment performance. So each grade we want to increase by 10%. We're going to focus on improvement from where they're at now. And in order to do that, we have a couple of things to do. I want to make sure that teachers are using MTSS groups, splitting students up for differentiated instruction. And then we want to implement cohort system changes. Obviously, something is broken there. Students aren't getting the help that they need in order to make that transition. So we've got to be more efficient there. Professional development for faculty as well. We want to base that on the classroom-focused improvement model that we learned previously in this class so that we can get collaborative feedback from teachers and also help them to know exactly what the plan is and where we're headed in the future. I want to be aware of the PTO's frustration as the leader of this school building, but I also don't want to allow it to make me lose hope in what we're doing here. So I know all the positives that my school has been doing. I want to be sensitive to what the PTO members are feeling, but I also want to move forward from a futuristic, forward-thinking mindset. So first, I need to speak with district officials. Can we apply for this grant? I need to speak with my school board and get a written statement of permission and commitment from my superintendent. Once I have that, I'm going to appoint a team of K-4 teachers for my grant committee. These are going to be following me as their leader throughout the course of this grant, and we're going to be together introducing them to the PTO and then reporting our findings and our improvements to the PTO throughout the course of this 3 years. In order to support my teachers, I want to implement professional development programs and use some of this grant funding in order to make some of these changes and get the ball rolling in that aspect. So personally, I want to visit with each K-4 teacher. As Kowalski and friends taught us earlier, we want to improve, not prove. So I'm not beating teachers with data. I'm just talking to them about the places where we can grow and improve. I will personally be sending out monthly emails updating teachers on our progress in regards to the grant and what the expectations are for the following month, asking them to complete collaborative tasks throughout the month with other teachers and then present their results to the rest of us as an overall staff. There will also be, we'll do quarterly checkups, but semesterly evaluations in order that I can keep up personally with my faculty and that they can let me know of any concerns that they're having throughout the course of the year. I want to be sure to channel part of this grant funding into both ESOL and SPED gifted programs so that we know that these are other branches that feed into the main classroom so that these teachers need to be part of the process and receive some resources as well. I want to bring in speakers to talk with my teachers at their in-service days and be part of, with me going up as a grant committee and reporting to the PTO what we've done over the past month, continuous improvement wise, what activities have we implemented, and what are the results of our formative and interim assessments. Next, resolving the issues. So what is best for the students? I'd like to look at maybe increasing the staff, so using some of this money to bring in some more paraeducators in the classroom. And of course, we talked about the professional development. So this would all together mean more ability for our teachers to utilize the differentiated instruction method so that they can customize the lessons to their students and they don't feel quite so overwhelmed. I'd also like to implement some technology, which is a twofold benefit for students. One, they're going to get better assessment for the teachers, and for parents, they're going to get more skills-based practice, and they're also going to be working with technology more. So we're getting in sort of a two birds, one stone on this grant where students can learn more about reading and practice those skills and also get the technology practice that they need. We talked about improving ESOL programs and increasing collaboration with classroom teachers. And I also want to mandate an increased amount of time per day spent on English language arts that's uninterrupted by other classes so that students can break up into their groups and not have to leave and come back, but they can practice those skills consistently each week. We know, of course, the data supports that 5% of students' primary language is not English within the home, so we have to take that into account that's why we want to increase collaboration with ESOL. Math scores have largely increased over the last 3 years, so overall, we know this is not a student problem, it's an instructional problem. That's where the break is and where we need to fix things. Strategic reading instruction, skills, and performance levels were not necessarily observed by the reading specialists, so we need to take what they have observed and continue to build on that. Both analyses were performed both by myself and the reading specialist, and they were also with all of that data that supports us and our facts that support what we want to do. We want to increase teacher professional development and continue to report that to the grant committee so that we can be renewed over 3 years and really get the most bang for our buck there. I will need to be prepared as a building leader to discuss the intersectionality of this data. We're going to need to talk about demographics, which we've talked about in our school perceptions? How does the PTO and the overarching community feel about our school's performance and why, and how can we improve it? School processes and student learning are both going to be tied closely into our grant reporting. So we're going to need to make sure that we're properly evaluating our students and giving them the appropriate resources and interventions that they need, and analyzing and utilizing the data from the last 3 years so that we can know which students are struggling and if we're meeting their needs or not. As I was going through this, I was thinking our school has a chronic issue. It's not going to be easy to fix, but it's going to be simple to fix. I kind of started to wonder, why haven't I been taking care of this problem and looking more in depth at this data in regards to personal assessment and teacher evaluation prior to the PTO complaint. But I'm not going to spend too much time beating myself up. I'm going to look toward the future and start implementing these new changes for the betterment of students. I felt a little bit embarrassed about being sort of called out by the PTO member, but at the same time, I feel hopeful about the fortuitous timing of the State Department of Education grant. So they're going to kind of sweep in and help us to work together to improve our performance overall. And what I value, of course, is what's best for our students. How can we improve and make sure that everything is equitable for our students so that they're getting the best education possible at our school? Unresolved issues. We still need to be approved for the grant, so we're applying for it, but I may need to seek help if I'm inexperienced at grant writing as a principal. First grade mathematics scores also dropped, so we may take a look at implementing some of these changes if they work in ELA, in mathematics and other academic areas. We need to start issuing spelling tests. We need to start issuing blending and different skills for students to use so that they can practice these in the classroom and then show their parents, practice with their parents on an outside of school basis. And then I also need to look into why the second grade cohort changes causes such large decreases, because those have been consistently down over the last 2 years as well. How I have sort of been an advocate for continuous improvement as I've spoken personally with members of the PTO in an empathetic and collaborative way, as well as updating them monthly on our grant progress, as well as our actual assessment improvements. I'd like to implement Read Me Like a Book events, which are weekly evening events where students and parents can come in, grab a snack, pull up a nice fluffy chair and read together so that we can have teachers around to help with that, but parents can also be highly involved with their students improving their reading. And then, of course, I kind of threw in there that I'd like to have a Twitter handle at Truman Elementary Reads, because parents and grandparents, I've learned as a recruiter for Fort Hays, are the most likely demographic to be on Twitter. So they're going to be the ones checking up on us for updates, news releases, and assessment calendar upcoming dates. I also helped community concerns by validating the PTO's responses. I thank them for their involvement and invite them to come to school board meetings and continue to send me their feedback. I do want to back up my teachers, though, and assure them that they have been teaching the curriculum. However, we're improving on the methods and we're applying for this grant so that we can implement new changes. I want to set the collective goal of increasing by 10% in the next 3 years over all grade levels K through 4. And we're also using the needs of our ESL students and building wide scores as support for the necessity of this grant. So obviously our scores are decreasing, collaboration needs to increase. These are all reasons why we should get and should keep this grant. Some things that I want to do to improve impacts for all student groups are to protect student data and privacy. So I don't want to overshare, even though we do want to make sure that we are open with our PTO and with our community. We want to make sure we're protecting student interests and data. I want to collaborate between classroom teachers, kindergarten teachers, because we don't have that data currently, special ed, gifted services, and ESOL. And I want to also share this data with a committee of 5th through 8th grade teachers who can then take that back to their area of the building so that they can have that and know what's coming. I want to collect data from all assessment types and redistribute that to the State Department for research-based grant requirements, give out infographics and practice workbooks to PTO members and parents, and also establish and encourage online questionnaires. So I want to get their feedback continuously and update the school board, kind of be a liaison between the PTO, the school board, and the city council. I would like to have new activities at the library over district-wide so that students can have that opportunity within the community to be in a library, kind of get the feel for that, and practice those skills in a fun way outside of school. That is my plan for the case study. These are my references. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm almost out of time, so I'm going to get going, but thank you all. Module 15, done.